My sister slapped me in front of 200 guests at her wedding because I refused to hand over my penthouse. Little did she know a judge was in the crowd watching it all. So, there I was at my sister's super fancy wedding, and my parents started dropping this bombshell on me. They wanted me to give up my awesome penthouse because, according to my mom, selfish kids don't deserve success. My dad chimed in, saying my sister's future kids needed a proper home. My sister just stood there, all smug, finally getting what she thought she deserved. When I refused, she actually smacked me right in front of 200 people, and to my disbelief, everyone started laughing. I didn't break down, though. Instead, I plotted my revenge, which I knew would eventually shut them up for good. The champagne glass shook in my hand as I watched my sister, Sabrina, gracefully glide across the marble floor of the Ritz-Carlton's ballroom. Her custom Vera Wang gown flowed behind her like liquid silk. It was her fairy tale wedding to Derek, a brilliant investment banker she'd met only 8 months ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was marrying for money but wanted me kicked out of my place. I'm Vivian, by the way, 32 years old, and I've worked my butt off to be where I am now. While Sabrina spent her 20s playing house with a bunch of guys, I was pulling all-nighters in law school and working crazy hours at a top Manhattan firm. Around 5 years ago, I took a huge leap and started my own business litigation firm, and it paid off in spades. Last year, I scored a settlement that let me snag a penthouse with a view of Central Park, which suddenly everyone in my family thinks they have a claim to. "Vivian, darling, you look stunning," my mom, Diane, said, coming at me with her usual fake smile saved for when she wanted something. Her perfectly styled silver hair and navy dress probably cost more than most people's rent. "We need to have a little family chat," she added. My heart dropped. Family chats in the Morrison clan were never pleasant. "It's Sabrina's wedding day. Can't this wait?" I tried to dodge. But no, my dad, Robert, jumped in, looking all stern. At 58, he still got a commanding presence in his fitted tux, but those eyes were laced with that familiar disappointment I'd known since childhood. "We've been talking about your living situation," he said. "My living situation?" I echoed, sitting down with my champagne, realizing I might need both hands free for this. "Well, honey," my mom started in that sickly sweet voice, "Sabrina and Derek are starting a family. They need more space than that tiny apartment Derek's renting." "They're not even pregnant yet, Mom," I pointed out. "But they will be soon," Sabrina chimed in, joining us with her new husband's arm wrapped around her waist. At 28, she certainly got the looks with her auburn hair and green eyes, but there was something calculated in her expression that made my skin crawl. "We're planning to start trying right away." "Congrats," I mumbled, trying to be civil. "I'm sure you'll find a lovely place to raise your family." "We already have," Sabrina announced brightly. "We want your penthouse." "Excuse me." I couldn't believe my ears. "Now, Vivian, before you get all defensive," Dad cut in with his patronizing tone, "think about it logically. You're single. You don't need all that space. Sabrina and Derek, on the other hand, are starting a family and need room for their future kids. You want me to give up my home?" I was in shock. "The home I worked for years to afford?" "Not give up," Mom corrected hastily. "Trade? You could take Derek's apartment. It's perfectly fine for one person." "A 600-square-foot studio in Queens?" I asked, dumbfounded. "You want me to swap my 3-bedroom penthouse on the Upper West Side for a studio in Queens?" "Vivian, don't be so dramatic," Sabrina urged. "It's not like you use all that space. What do you need 3 bedrooms for? You don't even have a boyfriend." That stung, just like she intended it. Sabrina was always the perfect child, the golden one in our parents' eyes. They praised her for dropping out of college to find herself, calling her career shifts and relationship dramas exploring her options, while my summa cum laude graduation from law school was met with concerns about working too hard. I need those bedrooms because it's my home, I said firmly. I earned it, I paid for it, and I'm not giving it up. Vivian Elizabeth Morrison, my mom's voice turned sharp. That's incredibly selfish. Family comes first, always. I laughed bitterly. Have any of you ever treated me like family? When I needed help studying for the bar, you said I was antisocial. When I launched my own practice and struggled, you called me careless. When I finally made it, you pretended it was a fluke. That's not true, Dad murmured, though he didn't sound convinced. Isn't it? I challenged. When was the last time any of you asked about my life, career, or happiness? But as soon as I have something you want, suddenly, I'm back in the family. Sabrina stepped forward, her face red with anger. You know what your problem is, Vivian? You've always been jealous of me. You can't stand that I'm getting married, that I'm going to have the family you'll never have. I'm not jealous of you, Sabrina. I'm disappointed in you. Oh, disappointed? She laughed harshly. Are you seriously disappointed in me? I'm the one getting married. I'm the one giving Mom and Dad grandkids. What have you done besides make money? I've built a life, I said quietly. I've worked hard for everything I have. I've never asked any of you for anything. Well, now we're asking something from you, Dad stated firmly. Your sister needs that penthouse more than you do. It's time you did something for your family instead of just yourself. Robert's right, Mom echoed, her voice rising. Selfish children don't deserve success. You've had everything handed to you, and now you refuse to help your own sister. The absurdity of it almost made me laugh. Handed to me? I retorted. I worked 3 jobs to pay for law school. I lived on ramen for 2 years while building my practice. I've never asked for a dime. Your sister's kids need real homes, Dad shouted across the ballroom, drawing stares. Not some cramped apartment. They deserve better. They're not even conceived yet, I argued. But I knew I was fighting a losing battle. My family had always been experts at making me feel guilty about my success. Sabrina leaned in close, her voice dripping with malice. You know what, Vivian? I'm done pretending to care about your feelings. I've always known I was the better daughter. I'm prettier, more likable. I'm the one who makes Mom and Dad proud. And now I'm finally getting what I've always deserved. Her words hung in the air, challenging me. Around us, guests started to gather, sensing drama. Some were outright staring now, their chatter dying down as they focused on our family meltdown. What do you think you always deserve? I asked softly. And what exactly is that, Sabrina? Everything, she said simply. The penthouse, the respect, the life you've been hoarding for yourself. I deserve it all, and I'm finally going to get it. Over my dead body. The slap came out of nowhere, so fast I didn't see it coming. Sabrina's hand struck my cheek with a sharp crack that echoed across the ballroom. For a moment, the sound seemed to freeze time. 200 guests fell silent, their conversations halting mid-sentence as they turned to see what was happening right in front of them. Then the laughter started, some of Sabrina's friends giggling, spreading among the crowd like wildfire. Strangers who didn't even know me, we were laughing, pointing, whispering behind their hands. Did you see that? She actually slapped her. About time someone put Vivian in her place. I always knew she was stuck up. My cheek burned, but I didn't cry. I'd be damned if I gave them the satisfaction. Instead, I stood there, feeling the weight of 200 pairs of eyes on me, listening to their snickers and whispered judgments. Sabrina smiled triumphantly. Maybe now you'll start acting like a real sister. Mom and Dad just stood there, not apologizing, not defending me. They watched, waiting to see if I'd cave to their demands. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the penthouse. This was about keeping me in my place, reminding me that no matter how successful I was or how hard I worked, I'd always be the black sheep, the one who didn't count. But they made a big mistake this time. They humiliated me in front of 200 people, many of whom were important figures in New York's legal and business world. People who knew me, respected me, and saw exactly what I was capable of. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone, my hands surprisingly steady despite the fury coursing through me. Without saying a word, I started typing. "Vivian, what are you doing?" Mom asked, sounding uneasy. I ignored her, my fingers flying across the screen. Around us, people began to laugh less as they realized I wasn't reacting as they expected. I wasn't crying or running away. So there I was, trying to mind my own business, when Vivian told me to stop what I was doing. But I just kept typing away. Dad was like, "You're making a fool of yourself." But quietly, I was thinking, nope, you guys are the ones who should be embarrassed. Sabrina tried to snatch my phone, but I dodged and hit send right as she reached for it. She hissed, "What did you do?" I glanced around at everyone, including my parents and the guests, who were all super curious about the drama. I'd just pulled off some epic revenge that would shut them up for good. Their confused faces were almost funny because they thought I'd either give in or start crying, not fight back. And then my phone started blowing up with replies. Vivian got a bit panicky and asked what I'd sent. I finally smiled, genuinely for the first time all evening. I'd messaged my group chat, you know, the one with all my lawyer pals and journalist buddies, the people who actually matter in this city. Sabrina turned as pale as a ghost. She nervously asked what kind of message it was. I casually mentioned how my family wanted me to give up my penthouse to my sister and her husband. How my mom yelled about selfish kids not deserving success. And how Dad said my imaginary niece or nephew needed a home more than I did. Oh, and my favorite part, how Sabrina slapped me in front of 200 people when I refused to hand over everything I'd worked for. The room got dead silent. Even the quartet stopped playing. I also mentioned how everyone laughed when I got slapped, finding humor in a successful woman being put in her place by her own family. Dad warned me, his voice low, to delete it. But it was too late. Social media was on fire. Sabrina screamed, calling me vindictive. I just told her I was done being her doormat. Derek, who'd been silent the whole time, suddenly spoke up, trying to smooth things over. I told him he had no idea what kind of mess he'd married into. He looked confused, so I mentioned Judge Margaret Chen. She was there and saw everything, and she's already texted me saying how disgusted she was. Sabrina turned from white to green. And then there's David Rodriguez from the Times. He's been following me around, trying to get a story, and witnessed the whole scene. Mom was urging me to stop, claiming I'd ruined Sabrina's wedding. But I told her Sabrina had ruined it herself when she slapped me in front of everyone. Sabrina accused me of being dramatic, but I pointed out that it was straight-up assault witnessed by a whole bunch of important people. Then my phone rang, and guess who? Amanda Walsh from that big-time law firm that handles reputation crises, offering her services for free. Sabrina looked like she'd seen a ghost. In our social circles, getting a call from Amanda means things are bad. Sabrina whispered an apology, but I wasn't buying it. I told her she was only sorry about the consequences, not the act itself. She offered to make a public apology, but it was too late. The damage was done. Everyone around was now whispering and staring, not at me, but at Sabrina with disgust. Dad finally asked what I wanted. I told them I wanted to be left alone, to stop being treated like an ATM, to stop sacrificing my happiness for Sabrina's sake. Mom tried to remind me, we're family, but I shot back that family doesn't act like that. Family doesn't demand your home or scream at you or attack you. Then I got a text from my assistant. TMZ wanted to know if I was the lawyer slapped at the Ritz. I showed the message to everyone, and Sabrina started bawling, makeup running everywhere. I told her I wasn't ruining anything but was simply refusing to play the victim anymore. Derek wanted to know how to fix it, but I said they couldn't fix something like this. By now, the guests were leaving, distancing themselves from the debacle, leaving Sabrina's wedding in tatters. I calmly told them the penthouse was mine because I worked for it. I suggested Sabrina find a job if she wanted a nice place. As I turned to leave, Dad grabbed my arm, pleading for family counseling or something. I told him to let go and reminded them about their choices. They'd chosen Sabrina over me, again and again, and when I finally said no, they stood by and watched her hit me. I walked to the exit, ignoring everyone's cries and mumblings. Before leaving, I told them that if they'd just respected me and asked nicely, I might have even helped them. But they chose demands and insults over kindness, so now they get nothing. I headed out of the Ritz-Carlton with my head held high, leaving behind the chaos of Sabrina's wedding and the shattered reputation of my family. The elevator ride down felt endless as the doors closed behind me. So there I was, still hearing all the noise from the ballroom, people crying and chairs dragging across the floor as everyone rushed to leave. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing since I sent that text, and with each ping, I felt both relief and dread. Thankfully, the lobby was quiet, and the night manager, a gentleman in his 50s, came up to me looking worried. "Ms. Morrison, is everything okay? We heard some commotion upstairs." I took a moment. Even the hotel's staff were in on it. "I'm fine, thanks. Just some family drama," I said. He nodded, but I could tell he was curious. By tomorrow, the whole hotel would know, and it would be the talk of New York's elite circles. Scandals spread like wildfire there. Stepping outside, the crisp October air hit me in the face. Weird, since I'd already been slapped tonight. I stood on the sidewalk for a bit, watching the cars pass by Central Park South, trying to make sense of it all. Part of me couldn't believe I did it, and the other part wondered why it took me so long. My phone rang. Riley, my best friend, and a prosecutor I met in my first year at the firm. "Viv, what the hell is going on? I saw your message, and now there are pictures all over Instagram. Did Sabrina really hit you?" "Yep," I said, starting to head toward the metro. I needed to move and deal with the adrenaline still coursing through me. "Wow, you okay? Want me to come over?" "I'm fine. Actually, better than fine. I feel free. Free from pretending they're family. Free from feeling guilty for being successful. Free from tiptoeing around them." There was a pause. "Viv, you know this is going to be a mess, right? Like a big mess." "I know, but I'm done, always. Cleaning up their mess. Let them handle it for once. What about your parents? They're going to be upset." "Jess, they stood by and watched their daughter hit me in public. They've always expected me to sacrifice for their favorite. When exactly am I supposed to start caring about their feelings?" "You're right," she said softly. "Sorry, I just know how much family means to you." "It does, but they stopped being family a long time ago. I was just too blind to see it." After hanging up with Riley, I decided to walk home instead of taking the subway. I needed to think things through, process everything. Walking those 40 blocks from Midtown to my Upper West Side apartment gave me that time. My phone kept buzzing with messages. Some were from coworkers at the wedding sending their shock and support. Others were from friends who'd seen the drama unfold online. A few were from journalists who somehow got my number, wanting a quote. The most surprising was Patricia Winters from my old firm. "Vivian, I just heard. I want you to know you have my full support. What happened was awful, and I admire you for standing up for yourself. Call if you need anything." Her message brought tears to my eyes, not from sadness, but gratitude. Here was someone who didn't even know my family, but offered help just because it was right. It made me realize how wrong my family was about me. They painted me as selfish, but the messages pouring in told a different story. From people who knew the real me, the one who mentored young associates, did pro bono work, and volunteered despite my crazy work schedule. By the time I got home, I had more than 200 messages and missed calls. Luis, my doorman, looked worried as I walked in. "Miss Vivian? You okay? Rough night?" Luis had seen me through everything over the years. Law school stress, breakups, job changes, late nights. He knew me better than my own family. "I've had better nights, Luis, but I think things are going to improve." He smiled. "That's good to hear. You deserve all the happiness in the world." In the elevator, I finally studied my reflection. My cheek was red from Sabrina's slap, my hair was messy, and my makeup smudged, but my eyes were bright and focused. I looked like someone who'd been through a fight and won. Entering my apartment felt like stepping into a sanctuary. The floor-to-ceiling windows gave a stunning view of the city, lights twinkling like stars. This was my space, my achievement, my home, and no one would take it from me. I poured some wine and flopped on the couch, finally diving into all the social media chaos. Someone had filmed the slap and put it on Instagram, already making rounds with comments from outrage to surprise. Even people I recognized from New York's legal and business circles chimed in. The story had taken on a life of its own, reaching far beyond Sabrina's wedding scandal. The phone rang again. It was my assistant Jenna from her personal phone. "Vivian, sorry to bother you on a Saturday night, but I've been getting calls all evening. The office voicemail is full, and reporters keep blowing up my phone asking for statements." "What kind of reporters?" "Everyone. Local news, Page 6, TMZ, even CNN. The stories everywhere." I closed my eyes, suddenly exhausted. "What do they want? Details about pressing charges, your family relationship before this, your law practice, even your dating life?" Of course they would. Successful single woman gets hit by her married sister. It's a narrative that sells. "Jenna, can you draft a statement? Something simple and professional like, Morrison is grateful for the support she's received. She's focusing on her work and clients and won't be commenting further on this private family matter. Should I mention anything about pressing charges?" I paused. Honestly, I hadn't even thought about it. Sabrina's slap was more about humiliation than harm, but the question made me realize I had options I hadn't considered. "No, don't mention it. Let's keep our options open." After the call, I realized I was starved. I hadn't eaten at the wedding because I was too nervous about the showdown. I ordered some Thai food and sat down to really think about tonight's fallout. By late evening, the story had blown up online. The Instagram video of the slap was on countless gossip accounts, racking up views. More interesting were the articles being written about what happened. A feminist blogger talking about women and family success dynamics. A family therapist discussing toxic family relationships. A legal expert on New York's assault laws. My story was no longer just about family drama. It had sparked bigger conversations about success, gender, family expectations, and standing up for oneself. Sabrina's Instagram, once filled with happy wedding pics, was now flooded with angry comments calling her out. Her wedding hashtag was being used to share the slap video. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then I recalled her triumphant look when she hit me and quickly brushed off the sympathy. My dinner arrived, and as I dug into the pad thai, notifications kept rolling in. Out of nowhere, I started getting calls from people I hadn't heard from in ages. My college roommate reached out to show her support, and my cousin, who's always been the odd one out on my dad's side, called to chat about her own run-ins with the family. Even my old high school guidance counselor, who must have seen the whole thing on Facebook, rang me up to say how proud she was of me. But the most surprising call was from Judge Margaret Chen, who had been at the wedding. "Vivian, I hope it's okay that I'm calling you. I found your number in the court directory. I just felt I needed to personally apologize for what happened tonight, she said. Judge Chen, there's no need to apologize, I replied. You didn't do anything wrong. I feel like I should have stepped in or said something. Instead, I just stood by like everyone else. You were a guest at a wedding, not there to referee a family feud, I reassured her. She paused, then said, But it wasn't just a family spat, Vivian. It was a pattern of abuse, emotional, financial, and even physical. It's something I've encountered far too often in my courtroom. Her words hit me hard. I'd focused so much on that slap and their outrageous demands for my penthouse that I hadn't taken a step back to see the bigger picture. But she was right. This was more than just one awful night. It was the result of years of my family treating me like their personal ATM, brushing off my achievements, and making me feel guilty for being successful. Wow, I never thought of it that way, I admitted. Abuse isn't always easy to spot, especially when it comes from family, she said. We're conditioned to put up with things from relatives that we'd never accept from others. But what I witnessed tonight, the demands for money, the public humiliation, the physical aggression, that's classic family abuse. After I got off the phone with Judge Chen, I sat alone in my apartment, mulling over what she said. Had my family been abusing me? It felt like a heavy word to use. They never hit me until that night. They never tried to control my life. But they'd consistently belittled my successes, guilted me over my achievements, and expected me to set my happiness aside for Sabrina's benefit. They saw me as a cash machine, not their daughter or sister. And when I finally stood up to them, they ridiculed me publicly and then physically attacked me. Maybe Judge Chen was right. Maybe this was abuse, just in a form I hadn't recognized. Understanding this was both empowering and heartbreaking. It confirmed I was right to sever ties, but it also meant admitting my family never truly cared for me. They just loved what I could provide. As the night wore on, I found myself almost grateful for Sabrina's slap. It was the wake-up call I needed, the final straw that gave me the strength to stop letting them walk all over me. Without it, who knows how long I might have let them continue. By 2 a.m., I was worn out but strangely at peace. I shut off my phone alerts to stop the constant buzzing and was getting ready to crash when my building's intercom buzzed. I checked the camera monitor and saw Sabrina outside, still in her wedding dress, mascara streaked down her face. She looked up at the camera and said, "Please?" For a moment, I hesitated. She seemed so broken and desperate. But then I remembered her smug look after she slapped me. I remembered her saying she deserved everything I worked for and the laughter of 200 people as I stood there, humiliated and alone. I turned off the monitor and went to bed. The next morning, the story blew up. "Lawyer assaulted by sister at ritzy wedding," read the headline in page 6, with a photo of Sabrina hitting me. The article detailed everything, from their outrageous demand for my penthouse to the assault in front of 200 guests. By midday, it was all over social media. Hashtags like #weddingassault and #familydrama were trending, with thousands sharing stories about their own pushy relatives and backing my choice to stand up for myself. Sabrina's new mother-in-law called to rescind her invitation to Christmas. Derek's law firm launched an internal probe after clients expressed concern about the incident. And my mom and dad's country club quietly suspended their membership pending review. My revenge wasn't violent or illegal. It was just the truth magnified by social media and the connections I'd carefully built. As it turns out, the harshest weapon is simply revealing who someone really is. A week later, Sabrina called me, crying and begging for help to fix the mess. She'd been fired from her PR job because clients started bailing. Derek was under professional ethics review, and their honeymoon got cut short when photographers started trailing them. "Vivian, "Please," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." "You meant to humiliate me," I replied calmly. "You meant to bully me out of my home. You meant to put me down in front of hundreds. The only thought, and you didn't mean was facing the fallout. I'll do anything. I'll apologize publicly. I'll tell everyone how wrong I was," she pleaded. "Sabrina, stop." I was sitting in my penthouse, gazing out at the Central Park view I fought so hard to keep. You can't apologize away what you did. You can't undo it, and you can't force me to forgive you just because you're finally seeing the consequences. She muttered, "But we're family." "Family doesn't hit each other, Sabrina. Family doesn't demand sacrifices they won't make themselves. Family doesn't laugh at your humiliation. I know I messed up, but please help me fix this." "I can't fix this for you. It's something you have to live with," I said, and with that, she hung up crying. I never heard from her again. 6 months later, Sabrina and Derek split up. The stress of it all, coupled with losing their jobs, ended their marriage almost before it started. Sabrina went back to living with our parents, who were now also social outcasts. Dad's business took a hit as customers distanced themselves from the family now associated with entitlement and selfishness. Meanwhile, my legal practice thrived. The attention was awkward at first, but eventually played to my benefit as I got known as the lawyer who wouldn't back down. New clients sought me out because they'd heard about how I stood up for myself, even when it meant standing alone. I never got my family back, but I realized I never truly had them in the first place. All I had was a group of people who saw me as a resource, not as someone to cherish. Of course, I kept the penthouse and transformed one of the spare rooms into a home office, while the other became a guest room for close friends. The space Sabrina claimed I didn't need became a place for people who respected me for who I am, not what I could give them. Sometimes I wonder if there could have been a softer way to handle things, if I could have held my ground without causing them pain. But then, I think back to the sound of that slap echoing in the ballroom, the laughter of 200 people, and Sabrina's triumphant smirk when she thought she'd won. I chose the truth as my weapon, and it worked. They never asked me for anything again. The silence, though unexpected, was exactly what I'd been hoping for. In the end, I realized the best revenge wasn't retaliating. It was simply putting my foot down and saying, "No, you don't get to treat me like this anymore." Sometimes, that's all it takes to change everything.